Welcome to the Bag Makers Workroom. I'm Kristen Simply Classic, and today is Thursday, September 4th, 2025. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us live this evening. We are here 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday. We are live most times. Of course, last week we were not because I was on vacation. We're going to talk about that in just a minute, but we really appreciate you joining us this evening. And if you can't join us, please make sure you hit the bell icon so you're notified when videos post. And of course, when we go live, we really appreciate your support. So our theme tonight, I want to say hi to a couple of people. We have Jane here from Pennsylvania, and Kat is here from Florida, and Robin is also here. So hello, everyone. So today our theme is elevated bag straps, and here is what we have planned. So first we'll start by going over what's new in the Simply Classic Scoop, and we have some giveaway winners to announce as well. Then I'm going to show you our pattern of the week, which is the Busta and some perfect pairings. We'll get inspired by some unique bag straps. I'll then show you how to copy one of those looks at home. In the Thursday thread, we're going to learn about the history of Prada and Miu Miu. We'll then feature our customers' bags in Artistry Avenue. And then finally, we'll do a Q&A and a pattern giveaway at the end. So as a reminder, if you have any questions during the live stream, ask them in the YouTube chat. Please take a second again to give us a thumbs up because that really helps us reach more people. So now it's time for the Simply Classic Scoop, and this is where I tell you what's going on here at Simply Classic. It's going to be a very busy fall for us. We have a lot going on, and we have a lot of events coming up. So I'll be traveling a lot over the past, next couple months. I'm going to have, a few pre-recorded Thursday live streams, but that's okay. Last week, I wasn't here because I took a little vacation before the busy season hit, and I wanted to show you some photos. We went to Alaska, kind of a bucket list thing for us, and we didn't go on a cruise. That's kind of not our vibe. We ended up flying into Anchorage. We rented a car, went up to Denali for a couple of days, and then came back to Anchorage, and then did some kind of excursions from there. It was absolutely gorgeous. And usually when we do big trips like that, we do one a year and we travel with my brother and sister-in-law. So I'm going to show you a few highlights of our trip. I think you're going to find them fun. So the first thing we did was we went to Denali, and unfortunately the weather was really not great the whole time we were there. We had about a day and a half of sunshine. The rest of the time it was either raining or really cloudy. But here are some photos of some of our hikes. This was absolutely gorgeous. The scenery, the pictures just don't do it justice. And I feel like if it had been sunny, we probably would have had a little bit more better views. But here's a picture of my husband and I. We're deep in the woods. And then, of course, we found some very gorgeous creeks and rivers. And I mean, they're just all over Alaska. They're absolutely beautiful. So we ended up, when we got back to Anchorage, we had our first excursion. We jet skied to a glacier. So this is me in my wetsuit that you put over your clothes. And then we got on jet skis and we jet skied out to this glacier. And here we are, the four of us in front of the glacier. And, again, it wasn't the greatest day, but it didn't matter because we were wet and it was kind of raining the whole time. But it was definitely a fun excursion. The next thing we did is we went ATV riding, and there was so much water. I mean, there's a lot of things that just got flooded because it rained so much. And these ATVs were almost like half boat, half ATV. It's amazing how they went through the water. And so we went 15 miles into the depths of Alaska. And you can see here, I mean, it was just crazy. We were wearing rubber boots and, rain jackets and everything else. And we ended up riding to this glacier. This is the Knik Glacier, which you'll see here. It is absolutely beautiful. And this is where the sky started to clear up. We were across the, I guess you call it a lake from the glacier. And when they talk about glacier blue, that's a real thing. You can see the blue in this glacier, and that blue is formed from compressed ice over the years. So we ended up eating lunch at the glacier. You can see us all kind of lined up there. They made us a hot lunch, which was probably about the best lunch I ever had in my life because it was so cold. And then we drove 15 miles back. The next day, we had a girls' day. So Janet and I got on this helicopter, and we ended up flying over the Knik Glacier, which you see here. This glacier is 5 miles wide and 25 miles deep. And we flew out to the summer training camp for one of the Iditarod sled dog teams. And so at this camp, there were 50 dogs. And basically what they do is these, I guess you call them like sled pulls for people to kind of learn about the dog sledding, but it's their training camp. This is where they build their muscle. And actually, they were only going to be there for a couple more days, and then they were going to actually start their official training for the Iditarod. Some of the dogs here were actually part of the winning Iditarod team. The man that runs this camp has won it 4 times. So you'll see here, we got pulled by the dogs, and they were just loving it. It was like a 2-mile track, and then we got to visit with the dogs afterwards. And they really encouraged us to, pet the dogs, thank the dogs. They were great dogs. They were so happy that we were there, and it was really a fun time. And then the last thing we did is we got on a plane and we went to Crescent Lake. And Crescent Lake is only accessible by plane. You cannot access it by boat or road. And you can see here the green of the lake. And what that means is that the glacier waters have melted into this lake, and it turns the water this beautiful jade green color. And the reason why we went here is to go bear watching. So we actually got on a pontoon boat. We went on the plane. It's a plane with those skis that you land on water. And then we got on a pontoon boat, and we just kind of cruised around the shoreline of this lake, and we saw these bears. So they're grizzly bears, but up there they're known as brown bears. And I guess depending on whether they're grizzly or brown depends on what region they're in. And in this particular region, they're known as brown bears. Now this lake was filled with salmon, and so they were able to eat to their heart's content. The guides told us they're kind of fat, happy bears. They're really, they're not aggressive. Now, we wouldn't get on shore with them, don't get me wrong. We were on a boat and they couldn't get to us. But, this is an example. We saw this mama bear with her 2 cubs, and it was, we were probably about 50 feet away from these bears, and they didn't pay us a bit of attention. You can see here, you got one playing King of the Mountain, and he was following his mama, did exactly what his mama did, but the other one decided to be a little bit of a rebel and tried to go underneath. So we sat there and watched him kind of try to figure it out. And then you see that little bear butt go up in the air as he tries to get underneath. And then he's scrunching down, and he finally gets underneath, and then they fight. It was so amazing. I mean, the bear watching was just fantastic. And then while we were there, we saw a lot of eagles, bald eagles. And because, of course, the lake's filled with salmon, so they get to eat to their heart's content as well. And it was very unusual, they said, to see 2 bald eagles perched together. Of course, they mate for life. And so these 2 were probably mates, and they were just hanging out, just watching and seeing what was going on. And so here's our group. We got my brother on the left, Janet, and then, of course, me, and then my husband. And we just had a really great time. So anyway, that's what I was doing last week. And now I'm all rested up so that we can start attending some of these shows and teaching and all kinds of fun stuff. So moving along, we are headed back to Houston this year for the Quilt Festival this fall. It was a really good show last year. I'm really excited to go back. The event is happening October 9th through the 12th in Houston, so it's a little bit earlier this year. We're going to be the same venue as last year. It's the same, I think it's like the same Houston arena or something. But anyway, same place every year. We're booth 1604 this year. So, of course, we're going to have some of our best-selling patterns and products. It's going to be a great time. If you're attending, make sure you stop by and say hello, because I always love meeting all of you. The other thing I want to let you know about is I have been stitching more and more, sewing more and more with my Burnett 08. And my Burnett is a straight stitch domestic machine. We actually have now been given a coupon code for it. So if you have been kind of sitting on the fence and maybe thinking about buying one of these machines, if you go to Premier Stitching, you can go to our resource page on our website and you can save 15% on this machine with the coupon code Chris Murphy. It's going to save you over $300. So I've tested a lot of different machines with our leather and faux leather, and the Burnett was by far the best. In my opinion, you know, I don't know, I loved it. Now, the HD9, you know me, HD9 works great. Some of the Jukies work great. I'm not trying to, you know, say those aren't good because they definitely are, but I really like the Burnett. So if you are interested, of course, you can order it from Premier Stitching. Go ahead and get your savings, and then just have it serviced at your local Bernina dealer. Okay, so that's what I suggest you do. I think it's a great deal. So you can, again, find it on our recommended products page on our website. The other thing I want to let you know is that yesterday we finally were able to get our full video conversation with Rock Boucher from Rock Leatherworks. You may have seen that part of it. We interviewed him on a past live stream back in July, and there's just so much more to the conversation. So we went ahead and posted it as a full video. We were trying to get it up a little earlier. You know, a lot of things are happening here, but we finally got it done. So for those of you who don't know, Rock mainly works with veg tan leather, and he uses more traditional leather crafting techniques like tooling and hand stitching. So if you're interested in leather, especially the kind of leather that we don't necessarily use here at Simply Classic, this is really a great video to watch. Rock learned leather crafting from his dad, who was a shoemaker, and he had so much to share. He gave some tips for skiving and wet molding, which I know some of you are very interested in. He also has a really interesting process for designing and prototyping his bags. So check it out. I learned a lot from Rock, and I know you will too. So now we need to pick some winners for our previous giveaways. We have a lot of prizes to give away this week, which is always so much fun. So I have the names of everyone who entered here in our bowls. So first we have a Leah PDF pattern. So this is our pattern of the week 2 weeks ago. And this here, oh, that's the little Leah. This is the Leah. This one here. This is the large version of the Leah. And to enter, we asked you to share your name and the part of bag making that you like the least. Okay. So here we are. We've got everybody's name in here. I'm going to go ahead and pick one. And our winner is, let's see, Gail the Crafter. So she says, let's hold it up there. She says the least favorite part of bag making is making the strap. So I make that first and then I set it aside. Okay, so congratulations, Gail. You won the Leah. So the next thing we have to pick is the Little Leah. Now the Little Leah was our pattern of the week last week. And since we recorded, we weren't able to give one away live. So we're actually going to pick 2 winners for the Little Leah PDF pattern tonight. So we have everybody who entered here. Go ahead and mix these up. And what we asked you was your name and something positive that happened during the week. Didn't have to be sewing related. It could have been anything. So Sewing Wolf, go ahead and hold this up. So Sewing Wolf says, the best thing that happened this week, I took my 6-year-old granddaughter shopping and out to lunch before she headed back to school. She was such a delight to spend time with. That is definitely precious. And I'll tell you, we can't get enough of that in life. It's all about family and kids, right? So let's look one more winner. So this is Robin Foldick. And she says, sewing some gifts for my cruise. Okay, well, I hope you have safe travels, Robin. I think you're on tonight. You're one of the people I said hello to. So congratulations. You have won the Little Leah. You can go ahead and email share@simplyclassic.net. In the next 30 days, we will go ahead and get you your prize. Now, the last prize I need to pick is something we don't do very often, but we do periodically. And this is our Labor Day sale. So basically, we said during our Labor Day sale, if you spent $100 or more, for every $100 you spent, you were going to get your name entered once into this little cup here. So if you spent $300, your name's in here 3 times. If you spent $200 before shipping, your name's in here twice. And this is for a bag making subscription box. So the third quarter subscription box is going to be available September 15th. And that's what you're going to win with this one here. Okay, so we're going to reach out to you to let you know you won. So I want to make sure I spread these out because we want to give everybody a good equal chance. And the winner of and this is for one box, which is the third quarter, is Kathleen. Hold this up. Kathleen Cloninger. So congratulations, Kathleen. You have won the third quarter bag making subscription box. So we are going to reach out to you and just let you know that you have won if you're not watching live tonight. Okay, so I'm going to slide all that out of the way. So congratulations to all of our winners, our pattern winners, and to Kathleen. The pattern winners need to reach out to share@simplyclassic.net, and we'll go ahead and get you a copy of your pattern. And then Kathleen will go ahead and reach out to you and let you know that we've got you. We're going to end up sending it to the email that you use to place your orders. Okay. So finally, I want to let you know that next week's episode again will be recorded because I'll be at the Sacramento Bag and Sew Expo. So we'll be doing the same thing that we did last week, where we schedule it as an instant premiere with a live chat. I hopefully should be able to be part of that live chat. I wasn't able to be part of it when we were on vacation, but I think I will be able to be on this one here. So if I can, I'll certainly participate and get on there with all of you. But if otherwise, I will see you if you're going to be at the Sac Bag and Sew. Obviously, I know a lot of you are teaching in class. I'm super excited about that. I pretty much am going to be teaching the entire time. I'm not going to have a booth. But if you happen to see me walking around, stop me and say hello, because I love putting faces with names. I know all of your names. I'm just not sure what you look like, so help me out. So now it's time to talk about our new pattern of the week. And this week, it's the Busta. So it's on sale for $12.49 this week for the PDF version only. So I'm going to grab a Busta, and the Busta honestly is one of my favorite patterns. I love the Busta. This here is one, and actually one of the faux leathers that we had on sale, like a flash sale during our Labor Day. It is our red and black crop, I believe, blended crop. And it is a bag that can really be used for evening if you want to use the chain, or it can be used for daytime with the strap. You can just switch them out. And the name is Busta. Busta is Italian for envelope. And this kind of reminds me of an envelope, right? You have a kind of an envelope flap. So we're going to take a little bit closer look at this in the overhead. So the Busta is a trapezoidal shape, meaning it's a little bit wider at the bottom than it is at the top. It's almost like it's a trapezoid is basically what it is. It has a flap and a turn lock closure. And of course, you can change this out and use anything here. I mean, that's just what the pattern has, but you can use a magnetic snap. You can use all kinds of things here. On the inside, we open it up. On one side, we have a zipper pocket. On the other side, we have a slip pocket, and then the slip pocket has credit card slot on it. Because it is a slim bag, and I think the credit card slots, especially if you're going out for evening, you don't want to carry your wallet. You're just going to want to carry everything together in one. And of course, we have this chain strap that has some faux leather or leather woven through it. And you could even leave this on here and have it as a decorative double chain like we see on the runway this year. The finished size is 13.5 inches wide, 10 inches tall, and it's only about 1 inch deep. Okay, it's not a super thick bag, again, because it is an evening bag. So the Busta pattern is on sale for $12.49 this week. And that will be on sale until next Wednesday, September 10th. At the end of today's show, we'll give away a PDF pattern to someone watching live, and I'll also let you know how to enter the giveaway if you're watching the replay, so stay tuned for that. So next, it's time for perfect pairings, and this is where we match some of our leather and faux leather with lining, thread, and hardware. If you're ever unsure about what goes together, feel free to reach out via email, and we're always happy to help because sometimes it's hard to shop online. So our first faux leather pairing, or we're going to do the faux leather pairing first, I should say, and we're going to go ahead and look at this here. This is our geometric triangles in white, basically black and white. We think that the main part of the bag in this, and let me tell you, this is Prada inspired. We're going to talk about Prada in our next segment here in just a little bit, and you're going to see how this is really a Prada pattern. And then the black, we're using textured black. You can use solid black, whichever, but we think that that would be amazing. We think the dark gray chambray by Tilda would be a great pairing for this, and I would use gunmetal hardware. I think gunmetal would be beautiful with this. Now the dark gray is back in stock. Okay, and then of course black gray, either text 70 or text 45. And then for leather, we're kind of going in a different direction. And the leather we chose for this week, seeing as it's fall, we are going with this is our burgundy rich brown. So we have some burgundy leather, but the burgundy rich brown is slightly different. We have to come up with a different name for it. I really think it kind of looks more burgundy than anything else, but we had to come up with something else. So we think this would be great, and I'd probably do the whole bag in that. And then I would suggest the rosewood chambray by Tilda, and I would go with the bronze hardware with this. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just a little bit on this. Hopefully let's do that a little bit better. And for thread, we recommend ripe raisin. And let me tell you, ripe raisin goes with this almost, it is an exact match. It is beautiful. So the leather is 10% off this week. All of the hardware kits are 10% off. And of course, the pattern itself is $12.49 through next Wednesday. So Jane says, with the B08, what thread do you use? I use a Tex 45 thread. We do sell it here in the shop, and we have both black and ripe raisin in that. If you're interested in any of those colors, we actually have 25 different colors of the thread. And let me tell you, it's popular. Y'all are very good in buying it up, and so it works great in both the top and bottom. So the next thing we're going to talk about is designer bag inspiration. And this is where we look at examples of bags that kind of fit our theme today, which is elevated straps and handles. So now we've talked about straps and handles before, and I actually linked a YouTube playlist in the description with several different videos. There are tutorials for faux rolled handles, some finished strap ends, and making padded straps, and just lots of other helpful tips. But today I want to take a kind of different angle on this. And I think sometimes the strap is almost an afterthought in bag making. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a simple classic strap, but I wanted to get us thinking kind of outside the box today. So let's take a look at some of these designer bag inspirations. So we're going to start with some chain straps. And since the Busta is our pattern of the week and it has a chain, I think it's a good place to start. It's very common to have a chain strap with leather woven through the links, kind of like in the Busta and like you see here. But with this coach version, it actually takes a little bit further and it has little bows on it. So I'm sure what they did is they kind of wove that bow through one, or they wove the leather through one of the chain and then tied the bow and probably put either a little bit of glue or just something to kind of hold it together so it didn't come untied all the time. But this is really kind of cute and interesting. It's not that difficult to do, and I would love to see one of you replicate this. I think this would be really pretty. The Natalia bag from Tom Ford has a chain with a leather shoulder strap. And this one's really interesting. We actually had to sit here and look at this one for a little bit today as we were going through these photos. We're not sure how they did this. It kind of looks like it's wet molded, but I don't know that they could do that necessarily. It might just be sewn on. So I think it might just be hand stitched in between each link. So every hole, every chain hole, I think they took a stitch. And so since the chain, of course, chain goes in different directions, you have one link going in one way and then the next link intertwines, it kind of goes back and forth. I think that's what they did here. I don't know. It's really unique, but we thought it was definitely inspiring. So, of course, you can also do some more traditional things like make handle wraps. And these handle wraps are great for bags with thinner handles or rolled handles because it makes them a little more comfortable to carry. So I'm going to show you how to make these in Sharpen Your Skills segment in just a minute. So another thing is to add shoulder padding to your strap. And this is the way to make straps more comfortable. So the Rebecca Minkoff chain on the right has a faux fur shoulder pad, and the Longchamp strap on the left has a shearling. So I know that fur isn't for everyone, but these are really good reminders that we don't have to limit ourselves to certain materials. We can use webbing, faux fur, which there's some amazing faux furs out there right now, or denim, and there's just really a lot of options. We just need to get a little creative. This is a scalloped shoulder strap with grommets from Michael Kors. So a strap doesn't necessarily have to be straight. Now, it's a little difficult to do this with faux leather because with leather, you would typically glue two pieces, wrong sides together, cut it out, and then either edge paint or if you're using veg tan, burnish the edges. With faux leather, you can edge paint. It's a little more difficult. But it's certainly doable. So this is a way to make a strap curvy and add some interest to it, and not the whole strap, as you can see. It's mostly just the part that goes across your body, which is probably a lot more comfortable over your shoulder. Another thing you could do with this is you could weave something in and out of those grommets, like a ribbon or cord or some leather or something to add a little bit more interest. And then these last few are going to be examples of utility strap. And a utility strap is basically a strap that serves more than one purpose. So it doesn't just carry your bag, but it also has other features that make it useful. This one has a detachable pouch or coin purse that is clipped to a small D-ring. And then this Fendi strap has a similar idea, but with a phone case, which I think is pretty brilliant. And then last but not least, we have some straps with built-in lipstick or chapstick pouches, and that's really clever. So the strap on the right also has a little D-ring for keychain or bag charm. So when it comes to utility straps, the sky's really the limit. If there's something that you need easy access to, figure out how you can build it into your strap. So I hope that this got you thinking about different ways to elevate your chains and straps and handles. So if you try any of these ideas, I would love to see. You can post your photos in the Simply Classic Bag Making community on Facebook. So we are going to move on to Sharpen Your Skills, and this is where I give you some tips and tricks to help you become a better bag maker. We're going to go to the overhead, and we're going to talk about this handle. So I actually have a pattern piece that we did up, and this is linked in the description below. You can go ahead and download this piece. And this handle wrap basically is 6 inches by 6 inches. And then I have little marks here for snaps. Now, if you want this is basically for 2 straps, to hold 2 straps together. In the example we saw a second ago in Sharpen Your Skills, it was an individual strap. So it's a little bit different. But either way, you can certainly adjust this pattern piece to what you need. If you want to make this handle wrap thinner, like let's say 6 inches is too wide, you don't want to take it apart or take off on the edge because you want to keep these curves. So what you would do is you would fold the piece in half, and then you would go ahead and fold that over take out as much as you need. So let's say I want to take out 2 inches. I fold that over 1 inch, and now I still have my curves, but I have a good piece that is thinner, okay? And you can do it in this direction as well if you'd like to make it both thinner and shorter. You would do exactly the same thing. You go ahead and fold your pattern piece. You could open it up, and now you have a thinner, shorter wrap. Okay. Anyway, let's go ahead and stick with this. I like to do my wraps out of leather, and it's not necessary. You can certainly do it out of faux leather, but I like leather. I think leather feels better in your hand. It conforms better. It's just, to me, a better material to use for these. You know, they usually age better, etc. But you can certainly use faux leather for this. You don't have to use leather. I have a piece of just scrap double-sided leather that I used, and all I did was take and cut it out. Okay, simple enough. Marked my spots for my snaps. And the only thing I want to caution you on is when you go to put your snaps in, you have, of course, your main snaps. You want to put whatever color you want on the outside, the main part of your snap there. But make sure you fold this over and put the second half of your snap here so that when you fold this, you can snap it, okay? And what I mean by that is the first time I did this, I just automatically put the male side on this side, and then I was snapping it this way, and that's not going to get me a wrap. Fold it in thirds. So again, you typically use thinner pieces of webbing or strap, and here I have 1.5 inch webbing that I went ahead and stitched in half, where I would typically hold this, because 1.5 inches is pretty wide to hold with your hand. But this is a nice feeling here. So I would go ahead and take and wrap these up in this, and then I would have a really nice handle wrap to either put on my shoulder or hold in my hand. Now, one thing you can do, and what I would do, is if I wanted to keep this wrap with this particular bag, I would actually stitch one of these straps to the handle wrap. Okay, I would just stitch it on there so that when I go ahead and put these together and snap it, this is not going to shift and move on the straps itself. Okay, it's going to stay stationary. So, you know, again, a very simple thing, but something that will help elevate your bags. Go ahead and download the handle wrap pattern piece, adjust it as needed. This 6x6 is probably the largest you would ever need. And again, if you would like, you could certainly do individual ones, and you just have to take the width down quite a bit if you want to have individual hand wraps. Okay. So now it is time for Thursday Thread, and this is where we share a sewing story or a design story, something about history. And, you know, we've been doing this for a while now, almost a year, and we talked about a lot of different designers, but the other day we realized there's one we hadn't talked about yet, and that's Prada. And they're one of the biggest names in the bag making world. So today I want to talk about the history of Prada and Miu Miu. Because if you didn't know, Miu Miu is actually a subsidiary of the Prada group. So Prada was founded in Milan, Italy in 1913 by 2 brothers named Mario and Martino Prada. It was originally called Fratelli Prada, which means Prada Brothers. The business started as a leather goods shop, which also sold a variety of luxury items like jewelry. They also some of their best-selling products were leather trunks that they imported from England. Now, if you've been with us throughout this process of going through this history, you know that a lot of these designers started out as trunk makers, right? Louis Vuitton would start out making trunks. I mean, so many of them did. So Prada was right there with them doing that. In 1919, Prada was appointed as the official supplier to the Italian royal household. And that designation allowed them to use the House of Savoy's coat of arms and knotted rope design in their logo. Now, it's a little hard to see here, but that's at the very top of this metal bag tag. Another notable symbol is the Prada triangle, which we see in the shape of the bag tag. It was first used by Mario Prada as a marker of the quality and craftsmanship of the brand. It also echoes the shape of the A of the brand's name. The triangle has remained a very important part of the brand identity, and even though it's very simple, it is immediately recognizable. So back in the day, they did make some bags, and here are some examples of those. And even then, they were very classic and very clean lines. They were just known for that. Now, Mario Prada was not a big believer in women's rights. In fact, he believed that women had no place in the business world. Mario wanted his son to take over the family business, but his son was not interested. So when Mario died in 1958, his daughter, Luisa, stepped up. Mario was proven wrong because she ran Prada successfully for almost 2 decades. Luisa had a daughter of her own. She was born as Maria Bianchi, but you might know her as Miuccia Prada. Miuccia is the one who turned Prada into the international success it is today. And here are some photos of her throughout the years. Miuccia is a bit of a Renaissance woman, and before she joined the family business, she studied political science at the University of Milan, and she was a student activist. She also spent many years training as a mime at a well-known Italian theater, and she even went on to get her PhD while working at Prada. She joined the company in 1970 when she was in her early 20s, and she took over from her mother in 1978. She hired a man named Frazio Bertelli. He was a successful leather goods businessman, and he would eventually become her husband, and they're still together today. So Bertelli advised her to stop importing luggage and focus instead on manufacturing their own bags. She took his advice, and in the end, it ended up being one of the best decisions they ever could have made. This is when Prada bags had their big breakout moment. Around this time, Miuccia designed the Vela, and it was a ripstop nylon backpack. It was unheard of at the time to use nylon for designer bags, so Prada really changed people's idea of what luxury meant. These are a few more examples of nylon Prada bags throughout the years. These days, their best-selling bags are mostly made of leather, but their nylon bags are still very, very popular. In the 80s, Prada expanded throughout Europe and the United States. They released a line of shoes and their first women's ready-to-wear collection. In pop culture, the 80s were all about logomania, and we've talked about this before, but to recap, luxury brands began licensing their logos and basically slapping them on whatever kinds of products they could put them on, regardless of quality, because people were willing to pay for the prestige of that logo. Prada was unique in a sense because their bags didn't have big monograms or big logos. They helped popularize the idea of anti-status, which is similar to what young people today are calling quiet luxury. You may have heard the phrase money talks, but wealth whispers. And that was very true for Prada in the 1980s. It was about style and quality, not flashy logos. For example, this is from a Prada photo shoot in 1988, and you can see there's not a logo on this app. In 1992, Miuccia decided to launch their sister brand for Prada that would have a slightly lower price point and cater to a younger crowd. She named it Miu Miu, which was one of her nicknames. Miu Miu was her passion project where she could be a little more adventurous, while Prada designs are very timeless and sophisticated. Miu Miu is a more contemporary and playful product. Their ads in the 90s often featured pop celebrities like this campaign with Drew Barrymore. Their first collection for the spring-summer of 1993 was cowgirl-inspired theme. It featured garments like fringed jackets and patchwork skirts, as well as some fringed leather bags. These are some of the very first Miu Miu bags from their first year in business. Now, Miu Miu is probably known best for their matelassé quilted bags. They have a very distinct quilting pattern that's a little more playful and whimsical than traditional quilting. But now let's pivot from Miu Miu back to Prada. Because in the mid-90s, Prada hired a new chairman named Patrizio DeMarco. He worked with the department stores to get Prada bags prominently displayed next to their other luxury brands. This helped them get more visibility with both customers and fashion editors. They continued to expand in the 90s and 2000s. Unfortunately, the luxury market in the US and Japan, two of Prada's biggest markets, kind of took a hit in the 2000s. They had a few rough years, but it turned around in the late 2010s. So to wrap up this segment today, let's look at some of Prada's handbags from the last few years. This is one of the most popular Prada bags. It's called the Galleria. It's one that's a little older. It came about in 2007, but it's been a staple in their collection ever since. This is the Clio. It's a minimalist shoulder bag that launched in 2020. Very simple shape, and it tends to come in more neutral colors, but sometimes they jazz it up like the Clio on the left that's all covered in crystals. Oh, this looks familiar. If you were here for our perfect pairing segment, you saw our take on the geometric pattern, which is inspired by Prada. So on this side, you can see some Prada bags, and then below them, we put photos of our faux leather in the same print. You can see it really does almost look identical. These are called symbol bags, with the symbol, of course, being the triangle. They're actually not leather. They're made of jacquard, which is a woven textile, and they have leather trim. Our geometric triangle faux leather is, of course, not woven. It's faux leather, but it has a really nice texture to it that gives it a very similar effect. The symbol design originated in 2022 as a way to bring the Prada triangle into the modern age and create a signature pattern. Louis Vuitton has the damier checkerboard pattern, and now Prada has their symbol triangles. So Miuccia Prada and Prasio Bertelli are still in charge of Prada today, and in fact, they're trying to build an Italian fashion house group that rivals the French group Louis Vuitton. And this year they acquired Versace. So they are well on their way to achieving that goal. Miu Miu is also growing in popularity over the last few years. So I'm really excited to see what's next for the Prada group. If there's any topics or brands you want to learn more about, let me know. There's so many interesting stories to tell, but I want to make sure we're covering topics that you care about and you're interested in. So don't be shy if you have any ideas or requests. Next, we are moving on to Artistry Avenue, and this is my favorite segment because it features you, our customers, bags made by you. And every week we select 3 bags that were posted in the Simply Classic bag making community on Facebook or that were emailed to share@simplyclassic.net. Featured artists will win a PDF pattern of your choice. This is open worldwide. If we feature your bag, you have 30 days to email share@simplyclassic.net to let us know which pattern you would like. So let's take a look at this week's artists. Today we chose 3 amazing Busta bags because it's our pattern of the week. And of course, this means that the PDF pattern is $12.49 right now. So Misty made this beautiful Busta. She posted this in June, and it was her 3rd bag she ever made. Can you believe that? It was only her 3rd. She did a fantastic job on this. She used faux ostrich for the body and this really cool chevron print for the flap. She also left off the twist lock, and I think that there's probably a magnetic snap under that flap. It is really amazing. Kathy from Dogwood Grove Goods made a lilac leather Busta, and the leather is a shimmery color with a crafted texture. It's really pretty. The lining's a floral print with water-resistant canvas. Beautiful. And now Anthony did something really unique. He made the Busta, but he swapped the flap out for the Roseanne flap. And we talked about this on the show a couple weeks ago on how to mix and match pattern pieces. And I'm so happy to see that you did this, Anthony, and I'm really excited to see how it turned out. Love your strap. You know, love the detail you put on there with your rivets. Love the rivet detail that you added to the Roseanne overlay there on the front. This was absolutely, when I saw this, I went, oh, wow, look at that. It was just absolutely beautiful. You did an excellent job. So Anthony says, wow, oh, congratulations. There you go. We love this bag. And this is, you know, again, a really great example of an elevated strap. I mean, you hit a couple marks there. Great job. So thank you to all of our featured artists for sharing their amazing makes. You are all very talented. Don't forget to email share@simplyclassic.net. If you can do that within the next 24 hours, that's great. But within the next 30 days is even, you know, okay, that's no problem. Let us know which PDF pattern you'd like. So before we move on to our Q&A, let's talk about our pattern giveaways for this week. We're giving away 2 PDF patterns for the Busta. We'll choose 1 live stream winner from the chat and 1 replay winner from the comments. So if you're watching live on Thursday, right now, here's how to enter. All you need to do is type the word triangle in the chat. And of course, that's inspired by the Prada triangle. And just enter it 1 time, and the computer will pick a winner while we do our Q&A. Now, if you're watching the replay, so not right now, but later on, you're watching during the week, you can also enter to win. Leave a comment that includes 2 things, your name and your favorite vacation you've ever took. And I'm excited to hear your answers. Maybe you'll even help me decide where to visit next. So now, because next week's episode will be pre-recorded, you will actually have 2 weeks to enter this one. So make sure you leave your comment by September 17th and tune into the live on the 18th to see if you have won. So now let's take a look at our questions. So the first that we have is a question from last week's episode, and we've talked about rivet removal. And a few of you had some questions about rivets. So Belle asked, she said, hello, I need help inserting rivets securely. They always seem to be too big. How do I choose the correct size? So it's a really great question, and we're going to go to the overhead, and I'm going to kind of show you. I think it's going to be easier to show you than to explain. So I have a piece of faux leather here, and it is it's actually, of course, the olive triangles. This is the Prada inspired. I just folded it before. This would basically be like a strap. And I have 2 rivet sizes here. One is much longer. The post is much longer than the other. You can see that that bronze post is longer than the nickel. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that your holes are not too large. You know, the smaller the rivet you're using, then the smaller hole you need to punch. So I went ahead and punched a hole here. And I'm going to go with the bronze one first. If I put this in and push this to the top, I want you to see how far that sticks out. Okay? It really is sticking out quite a bit. If I put a cap on this and try to punch that or press that, it's not going to stay very well because there's so much post. The post is going to bend. So really, this rivet is too large for this 4 layers of faux. This is, I believe, an 8mm rivet. If I take a smaller size, my nipple size, and I put it through this hole, you can see that that rivet is barely peeking up through that faux. Okay, it's just a little bit of it showing. This is a 6mm rivet, and this is going to be a much better rivet for this particular project. Okay, so it really has to do with the rivet post size. You don't want it sticking out too much. If you do, it's not going to work. Now, opposite, if it's not sticking out enough, if you put this through and you're barely seeing your post, or you can't hardly see it come through at all, then the rivet's too small. Okay, so you want it to stick up, about 1/8 of an inch. So you can go ahead and get that cap on there and then press it. Okay. Next question was Diane, and she asked, how do you keep the punch from sliding off the rivet when you try to punch it? Mine keeps sliding off. So typically when you use a rivet, you've got some kind of die where the head of the die fits into the head of the rivet, and that holds it in place, and then you punch it. And even the hand punches have that. They have dome, like a little dome end to the hand punch, so that when you stick it on there, it holds it in place. So just make sure you're using the right tools. There are like sets you can get, really, if you want to do a hand punch, you can get them on Amazon for really inexpensive, and they work just fine. So I would say just make sure you get the right tools for that. So Rock says 1/8 of an inch sticking out. Yes, on these double cap rivets. So that's about what we're looking for. Michelle says, I also put some glue in the cap of the rivet before setting. That's a great idea. Very good. A little dot of glue. And Diane says, I was referring to the rivet removal tool. Okay. So let's go back to that. How do you keep the punch from sliding off the rivet? Ah, I see. Okay. You know, I just maybe a little bit of practice. If it does slide off a little bit, I usually just come back to it and try it again, because I do know what you're talking about. Mine does slide off from time to time. And if you go back to last week's episode, you can kind of see what Diane's talking about. Because you're removing it, if it slides off and you have to go back and trying to hold it really straight there, and kind of do the best you can with it. I don't know if there's really a trick to it. I wish there was. And if somebody has a suggestion, please make sure you speak up, because we would love to hear it. So Tina says, what color is our Julie? I'm assuming you're talking about for Stack Bag and Sew. We actually sent an email out to everyone and told you what color thread and everything to bring. You need to bring navy thread. It's navy. Yeah, hopefully you got that email. Tina says, big shout out to Chris for your awesome woven interfacing, game changer for me for sure. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. That woven interfacing is something we worked on for a long time to make sure we got that solid glue back. It really does make a difference. It really sticks well whether you're using an iron or heat press. Either way, it's pretty good. And I know, you kind of think, well, I'm biased, but I think it really looks good. Okay, so now let's go ahead and see who our winner is. And the Busta PDF winner is Lori Nichols. So congratulations, Lori. Go ahead and email us at share@simplyclassic.net. Since you're on now, if you can go ahead and email us within the next 24 hours, we will go ahead and get it to you right away. It gives us a little less to keep up with. It helps. Otherwise, if you could email us in the next 30 days, we appreciate it. So thank you for joining me in tonight's Bag Makers Workroom. Make sure you join us next Thursday, September 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. As a reminder, the video will be pre-recorded because I will be on a plane on my way to Sacramento for Sack Bag and Sew. So look out for the video as a premiere instead of a live stream. Don't forget to submit your Simply Classic makes by posting them in the Facebook group or emailing share@simplyclassic.net. And please remember to click that thumbs up button on your way out. It really does make a difference for us. So until next week, everybody, happy sewing.